Good evening, and welcome to Hello, It's Us. Hello, It's Us is dedicated to educating the general public about issues of importance to the disability community, and our premise is that as we do so, all of you will realize that these issues are important to everyone because people with disabilities are a part of the general community. Hello, It's Us is brought to you through collaboration between the University of Iowa Center for Disabilities and Development, Uptown Bill's Coffee Shop, and our good friends at Public Access Television. My name is Mike Hoenig. I serve as one of the co-hosts for Hello, It's Us, and I work as a program coordinator at the Center for Disabilities and Development. Keith?
My name is Keith Ruff. On the other co-anchor. I'm writing a book. I've always been an advocate with disability issues. Welcome, everybody.
Well, thanks, Keith. We are continuing to expand our horizons here on Hello, It's Us, and today marks our first opportunity to film on location. We are at ICATER, the Iowa Center for Assistive Technology, Education and Research. We are in N110 at the Lindquist Center, College of Education. This is the second in our multi-part series on ICATER and assistive technology. To my right is Amanda Lewis, a UI School Psychology doctoral student and a graduate assistant here at ICATER. To her right is Kyle Spading, a rehabilitation counselor and a community advocate. And to his across is Patti Barr. Patti is the director of ICATER, and we're just really delighted, number one, to be able to film here, and number two, to welcome all of you to the show.
It's great to be back. Thank you.
And I hear we're going to have a pretty sophisticated equipment to show you.
Absolutely. When we all value technology greatly, and
Yes.
it's just really great to be able to actually talk about it and to share some of it with you. So what I'd like to do first is just to reintroduce two of you, and then I'll give Kyle some time to introduce himself. And we'll do that, we'll start with you, Amanda, and just introduce yourself and talk with us about your connection to ICATER and specifically to assistive technology and why it's important to you.
Absolutely. Well, like Mike said, my name is Amanda Lewis. I'm a school psychology doctoral student here at the university. So I've been in school for quite some time and will continue to be in school for a little bit longer. And as a student with several specific learning disabilities, assistive technology has been really central to my success through this point, and I'm sure will be a feature even as I continue on into my career. Primarily, I have a disability in writing, and so using pen and pencil, particularly for composition, is really not a feasible mode for me, and so I use speech-to-text software to compose and really be able to convey my thoughts and my abilities through the written word in a way that's really representative of what I can do. And so that has been really a game changer for me as an individual, and one of my favorite things to do is work with other students to find their game-changing tools to really make them successful in whatever it is that they're trying to do.
Amanda, would you say, without the technology you use, would you be a doctor?
No, I would not. I really would not. I don't think I would have even been able to make it through my undergraduate degree, which I was successful in. I graduated in 2008 with a double major in psychology and child learning and development from the University of Texas at Dallas with honors, and none of that would have happened without assistive technology.
And it's interesting to think about it, if you had been born maybe even, 20 years earlier.
Maybe even 10.
That a lot of that technology just had not developed to the point where you would have been able fully benefit from it because it just didn't exist.
Absolutely, yeah, my timing really was serendipitous, particularly considering speech-to-text technology, which has really come a long way. Even in just the past 5 years, we've seen an enormous jump in the capabilities of the software to be able to pick up on nuances of speech and really be accurate with speech transcription.
Excellent. Kyle, go ahead and tell us about yourself and your journey into assistive tech and your work with ICATER.
Well, I have some similarities to Amanda in some ways with assistive tech, as I use Dragon, naturally speaking. Getting into assistive tech, my educational experience, I was born and raised in local Belle Plaine, Iowa, and then first experience the University of Iowa playing tight end for the football team here, so somewhat of in a more able-bodied, if you call it, more what we call privileged type of role, with physical limitations being the least of my concerns. And then I graduated with my bachelor's in health and sports studies in 2009. Became director of parks and recreation for back home in my hometown, and then I was in a car accident five and a half years ago now, and so when it paralyzed me from about the neck down to begin with, and then I really didn't have any movement in my arms, so obviously accessing things as I did before became quite challenging. So assistive tech really came into the picture when I decided I'm going to need a new way to do things, and I decided to go out of state for that initial rehab to Rehab Institute of Chicago, and then got really good assistive technology exposure there. There was a lot to take on right away, but at least gave me a good base to know where to go. And then, through that long, drug out, brutal rehab process, I started to regain some motion in my arms. So some things opened up to me a little bit, but right at first I knew that computer access was going to be one of the big things. And I eventually ended up learning and kind of teaching myself Dragon, naturally speaking. Trial and error. It was frustrating at times, but like she said, the technology's gotten a lot better. I added components around the speech to text because I didn't have the ability to type, and mouse movement was not a strength of mine, so I found a couple different avenues there. Then I was able to have enough to get back to the University of Iowa for my master's in 2014 in rehab and mental health counseling. And through that process is where ICATER became involved a little bit more. I kind of got into a classroom setting and experiencing campus in a whole different light, not being able to run much. Patti kind of stepped in at the time, internship, when I really did need quite a bit of, I needed a good boost and some new creative solutions, and that's where ICATER came in.
Kyle, do you think from the change of being non-disabled to disabled, that the high-tech technology and the rehab made it easier for you to transform from a non-disabled individual to one with a disability?
Just to clarify, I guess, are you asking more about what made it easier in that transition?
Yes.
Like specifically assistive tech-wise?
Yes, and rehab-wise.
I'd say in general, and I kind of talked about this in some lectures with Patti, was overall the social support. And I think ICATER served as even just a part of that, is just having a place to go where you could, voice those concerns and have people around that maybe could pick up on things that you didn't have to explain every small detail to people. So social support, and then just having that knowledge base around specific items of technology, I thought helped me the most. Really for me, it just started with computer access. It started with, that's where I felt like I picked the speed of my life back up to where it was, and I could just had access to everything that anybody else did with the internet now. So Dragon started with that, and I ran my mouse just completely voice activated. And then I think beyond that, obviously a nice fancy chair. There's a lot of components here. They cost as much as a Cadillac, so. And then as I got some more movement back, the iPad really opened things up for me too. It gave me a really good sense of the physical control back. I was like, wow, I can really touch and activate something now. And you can kind of pin down without any physical movement. I would say the combination of the people and then those devices.
I think
I wonder too, Kyle, if some of your training in football really helped you to persevere.
Yeah. One of the things I sometimes take for granted, I'm glad Patty brought it up. I may have handled things in a traumatic sense. Perseverance-wise, yeah, but really even acutely after my injury, they say a lot of people after an acute injury, of spinal cord injury, or any traumatic experience, they might be in a little bit of a shock mode, and they might not come out of certain things. Well, football definitely helped with that. I was kind of used to, so like 70, 80,000 fans, staring me down, high risk, air, and things of that nature. So, yeah, it helped me be a fast learner, because that's kind of what Coach Doyle talked about. I mean, he would never tell us what our workouts were going to be on any given day. We would just have to show up and find out. All part of the training. Yeah, little things like that. And then you see, through my experience, having the meeting with so many clients as a rehab counselor now, yeah, a lot of the barriers hit everyone differently, and everybody's ready for assistive tech at a different time. So.
It's a great point. I wanted to go back to something you said, Kyle, that I don't know that we talk about as much as we should, and that was, we were talking specifically about the iPad and how that kind of really helped you speed your world back up and gave you back the control that you thought you'd lost. And those of us that have been kind of in this field for a while kind of remember when there was a big shift from before it was thought that the disability itself was the handicap or the limitation. And then we started to realize, and it became more of a collective consciousness, that the issue wasn't so much the physical limitation as it was the environment. And that if we could build the environment to address the needs of people with disabilities, that the actual condition, whatever it was, would be much less of a handicapping condition. And I think both of you, through your examples, have really made that point very strongly, that it's not about the fact that, obviously, Kyle, your injury was another game changer, to borrow Amanda's phrase, but on the other hand, so were the pieces of technology that really helped you to bring your life back to some of the way it was, although you still need to do things differently, that you're functioning as you did previously.
Absolutely.
And I think now we're more involved with changing the environment than the individual.
Yeah.
We're making the environment fit the individual.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a really beautiful marriage too, because Thinking about it from my perspective as someone with a writing disability, I think there will always be a place for the written word, and that, I wouldn't want to change the environment to the point that there isn't an expectation that we have written language, but to have this beautiful melding of the shifts in expectation where, is this really an occasion where I need to express myself in writing, or is this an occasion where it would be equally of benefit if I express myself in some other way, and then being willing to allow me to produce that final written product of written language any way that's comfortable for me as an individual. So I think there's things on both ends that can be done to achieve that objective, and I think ultimately for many of us, there's always going to be things in the environment we can change to make it easier, to make it less resistance, to make it more natural and more barrier-free. And there's always going to be special things that we can give to individuals to help further modify their experiences, so they can live their lives in the way that they choose to.
And express themselves. Go ahead.
That's part of the concept, exactly what you're talking about, Amanda, is really the concept of universal design. And we're going to be talking about that throughout this. We've talked about this in other sessions, and that providing multiple ways for people to express themselves, to show what they know, to show how smart they are. I mean, who cares if you are writing about the Declaration of Independence? If you can tell someone about the Declaration of Independence, or write a song about it, or whatever, however it is that you can tell someone that you understand those concepts. Why should it have to be in a written form?
Unless that's an inherent part of the activity, and then we add in this assistive text, so then the individual with disabilities can still do it. And so I think it's this beautiful layering of supports and understanding to really help individuals with disabilities be equal and active members of our communities and our world.
I think back to when I was in college in the mid-'80s here, and many times, I would have to have readers for tests, and sometimes the readers would, depending on how they arranged it, sometimes the readers I would actually have to dictate. There were times when I was allowed to bring a typewriter in and have to schlep the typewriter across campus. And
did you have a wagon or something?
Oh, I think I just had strong arms. Yeah, I had a case. It was pretty crazy, but I remember having to do that. And so, I think only one time I had a professor that said, "Oh, you can just," he would read the questions on a cassette tape, and then I would, he allowed me to take the tape back to my dorm, and he was a pretty trusting guy, but. It's just interesting how, now that those barriers, for the most part, I suppose that there are still some professors out there that may not be writing everything electronically as they should, but I mean, just the capacity that we have. I don't know if I'd like to be a student or not now, because there were a lot more access, but I think a lot more expectations. I mean, the playing field has been leveled for so many of us with disabilities because of the technology, and I do think that's a very, very good thing.
I have a question for Amanda and Ben. Knowing how very high-tech is advanced, do we need to worry about the extreme cost of it? Is the cost going to outweigh the affordability of getting it to the people that need it?
I remember Dragon, you both talked about Dragon Naturally Speaking, and I remember when Dragon was $10,000, and that was many, many years ago with some of the earlier versions. And now you can get a copy of Dragon for sometimes you can get it on sale for $100.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
So-
and now's a great time to do it, folks. They usually run a sale around holiday time.
I think I've seen as low as 79.
Right,
Yes.
right.
Wow.
Yes. And so I think that's a great point, that as technology is evolving, we're finding new ways to make things more powerful, more cheaply, through the ongoing evolution of technology in general. It's the same thing that, when Dragon was $10,000, our cell phones looked like this. Technology is growing in a exhilarating way. I think there's some really exciting directions as well in terms of smaller groups of people seeing needs and developing apps. Nowadays, very small teams can make really cool tools. We're seeing a lot of that happening. We're also seeing some really cool changes just in the field in terms of offering a free version of a tool and then a paid version of a tool. Some nice trial things we're seeing that are really giving people an opportunity to try tools before they invest resources, and also to give them more of a selection. There's not just one tool for speech detector, one tool for text reading. So I think those are really exciting options as well.
I think the other thing is that more people understand that assistive technology can help them, and so the market is bigger.
Yes.
So it's not just this tiny market of people using assistive technology. It's exploded. In some of the classes that we teach here, we have students trying some of the technology that they're going to see in schools, and I every time they do their presentations to tell us that what they've learned about this technology, they're always saying, wow, I've been using this all week and I'm going to continue to use it. And that's the attitude change and how people have understood or are understanding how important assistive technology is for all of us.
Well, the reason I am as a user of a power chair, my first power chair was only $1,800. The last one was $21,500. So they've gone up. And I just wondered if it will ever level off.
Yeah. Well,
Are you talking just expense-wise, the chairs?
Yes.
Yeah.
Again, it's a small market for chairs.
yes.
But if you're talking about, so the price is going to remain high because it's a small market, but it's a larger market now for things like voice input or different ways to access the computer with your head.
Right. It's the difference between high incidence and low incidence disability to an extent, unfortunately. There's also factors like just, inflation, what our money is doing, just separate and apart from anything to do with disability. And also power chairs have changed a great deal in what they're able to do and how they do it. And I'm sure that's contributing as well to changes in expense.
We could go on and tell stories forever about
Yes,
all
we
this
could.
stuff.
Oh, that's okay. I think this is really important to have this discussion. I think one of the things that we were going to talk about, we've touched the fringes of, but just in terms of some of the benefits, and we've given some of our own personal stories about what assistive technology has done. Would any of you like to comment just in general about some of the global benefits that assistive technology has on students and their success, whether that be in elementary school or at the college level?
I agree with you so much that we've already kind of touched on this, and I think it really is a lifespan tool. I always say AT can stand for assistive technology, but it can also just stand for awesome tool. And I think that so many of our students now, regardless of if they have a disability or not, are discovering ways that technology can help them do their best work and experience things in the best, most enriching way. And that's carrying them through, starting when they're little children. Now you're seeing little children using iPads to start learning their letters, using iPads to start learning even print concepts, all kinds of things. Little children, all the way through to, I was working over this Thanksgiving with my 88-year-old grandfather who now has very intense arthritis in his hands and has a very difficult time typing. We've got him a big keyboard. I'm training him on some speech to text so he can continue to engage with technology even at the age of 88. So I think there's some phenomenal opportunities for meeting needs wherever we find them in lifespan.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. I think the benefit might go just a little bit beyond that. I think the biggest benefit is just overall the different positive mindset that it's giving society in general, and especially, there's not too many things that technology hasn't touched or too many people in some way, and that just allows it to expand. And the important thing to me, I guess, is as long as we can get people to, when they're designing something, if you're an architect with universal design and you're thinking about building something, or you're a software engineer, if that mindset is already instinctively built into you because you've already experienced it, you're not going to really recognize it as AT if you're like, oh, I didn't know that was AT. Just having them naturally think about, what if I didn't have my hands and I couldn't do this? How would I run my software that I'm developing? I think we got more people thinking like that. So it's a general awareness, and that's how I just see it benefiting on a large scale. From a philosophical scale, I guess.
I think that's a very good point. And it kind of relates, Patty, you brought up the concept of universal design earlier. And when we think about, you were talking, Amanda, about the iPad benefiting little children as well as for, an 88-year-old grandfather, and then throw in people with all kinds of disabilities that are being able to communicate in ways that they couldn't before. I think about just the way we do business now. All of our information at work is presented electronically as opposed to, I remember my mailbox used to get full of campus mail envelopes with things that I'm supposed to react to, and then I have to figure out how I'm going to get it read. Because we've gotten more into the digital age, I now have much less need for that kind of support because almost everything can be provided electronically, and that is, I think, a shift in consciousness which has just naturally evolved to benefit people with disabilities because there are lots of smart people out there that are designing assistive technology and then are supporting it through programs like ICATER here on campus.
Yeah, really what we're describing is a shift in cultural consciousness.
And I hope we've got an aging community, and I hope that as people age, they will be more accepting of some of the technology that's available to them. For example, I got hearing aids a few years ago, and my husband quit mumbling. But it really wasn't him mumbling, of course. It was that I could hear him. And getting those hearing aids was one of the nicest things I'd done for myself in a long time. It took a lot less energy to hear what was going on in meetings, and even just talking one-on-one with people. I hope that people are realizing that assistive technology is for everyone.
Well, that's a great way to wrap this up. This has been a lively, spirited discussion, and we are coming to the end of it. And so we want to thank Amanda, Kyle, and Patty for taking the time to join us today for this great discussion. We also look forward to our next segment where we will actually be demonstrating some of the assistive technology and getting it down to the hands-on way of showing what people can accomplish through assistive technology. So again, thanks to all of you. Keith?
Thanks for having us.
And we hope all of you out there got a better grasp on what high tech can do for various individuals with different disabilities. Thank you.